Hello, welcome to the first day of Magical Readathon and officially the latest ever TBR share on my part. I do apologize. Life has been... But I got it, I'm here, and I have a plan-ish. I have the prompts. This is actually a lie. I didn't print them this time. I have my career though, which is Dreamwalker for Devantia's 4th year in the calling, because she did have 1 year in Rift Architect at the very start, which honestly really suits her, being extremely flaky as a character. Normally I have a book for every prompt so that when and if I finish my own TBR, I can do extra credit. This time though, because we're going through like a whole period with me and reading and my relationship with reading, I needed options. I knew I needed options, so options I tried to prep. So instead of prepping the entire 14 prompts list, I just made myself a TBR that hopefully is going to allow for a lot of mood swaps. For the Dreamwalker career in Spring Equinox, I need myself 7 classes. So let's get through them. Starting with Alchemy, and the prompt was to reread a book. I do have a couple of options. I actually noted down quite a few. I had Only Human there, I had Cinder, which is the first in Lunar Chronicles, but I've since decided that I'm not gonna go any of these routes, and I think the most likely scenario is going to be a reread of We Are Legion, We Are Bob. Waterstones recently came out with like an actual special edition for it, which is really fantastic and also really pretty. This reminds me of Rain, style-wise, for the end paper. Extremely fun because I don't actually own them physically, and I love this series. I think I haven't actually finished it because by the time that I did finish it in like 2018, not everything was out and I wasn't aware that it's not done. So anyway, definitely very much overdue a reread for these. And now that I have unlocked rereading as like as an option for myself, I feel like, because I have really been not doing that ever, I thought this would be a fantastic selection. Not only did I enjoy the premise and I loved my time with the book back in the day, the audio narrator is actually the same person that narrates Project Hail Mary, which is obviously a super beloved audiobook in general, the performance there. So I always recommend this if people enjoyed Project Hail Mary and are looking for something similar, because not only are the stories similar in a sense, like they have some elements, similar type of humor, similar type of storytelling. So I'm gonna do this and I'm actually very excited. Hopefully I can continue with the series as well, which I didn't actually include in my TBR, so maybe there's gonna be tweaks later on, but very excited for this. And I also wanted to make sure that I have something for an audiobook, and I think this is gonna be a perfect choice for that. So We Are Legion, We Are Bob is... Let me just check what is said in the synopsis so I don't spoil anything. I'm actually gonna leave some stuff out because the synopsis is actually quite revealing. Our main character, Bob, as you can probably guess from the subtitle, he's in a software business. After he develops a certain software, he has like a whole early retirement plan and also participates in this like cryogenic experiment where he freezes his head to be awoken for like later, right? Unfortunately, right after that, he crosses the street and gets hit by a car. And what you know is killed instantly and wakes up, how many years later? Century later. Unfortunately, instead of a utopia, it's very much a dystopian time on Earth, a precipice of war, very corrupt government, his rights as a frozen head are completely non-existent, he's uploaded into AI, and certain things happen, and so much happens. But honestly, this is a very humorous book, however, has these type of like heart-wrenching, heartstring tugging moments similar to Project Hail Mary, and that is why I also compare these two, not only because of the narration, which I only figured out that is the same narrator much later than I should have, but I do think the tone of both stories are very similar. So if you enjoyed one, I would highly recommend and have been recommending this one instead. When I checked the stats, it's actually much more well known than I thought, because I genuinely don't really hear people talking about it, but it deserves just as much love as Project Hail Mary in my opinion. So if you're looking for something like that, join me. Now I do have an option if I am struggling with time. There is one book in particular that I could use multiple scrolls to do a bit of a mashup. So one scroll would require me, I think, a scroll of continuity, which is a scroll that lets you continue with the book that you have started prior to April starting or the semester starting. And I could also use another scroll Maybe the biggest scroll, I mean, I'm swimming in points. I genuinely have not really been buying stuff with Divanthia because, I don't know, when I'm hosting I forget about that. That was my plan for the next character, is to keep a much better track of it, but I know I'm swimming in points. I'm definitely can afford scrolls if needed. And I could get the scroll that like removes the no double up rule for everything. I do have this option if needed, and it's Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I read this as an audiobook first, and maybe I wasn't in the right space, maybe there's something wrong with me because I know everyone loves the audiobooks, but also I do have this weird line in my enjoyment where when it's extremely performative, it's almost like a whole production of a book, sometimes there's just too many chances for the narrator to perform a character very differently to how I would read a character, or just even slightly differently, and it's very jarring in my brain. I can't let go of the way that I would read them, and then it really clashes, and unfortunately that is the case with Princess Donut, and I genuinely love pretty much every other voice. It's just Princess Donut that I don't know. So anyway, I've started rereading recently this, because on paper this should be like, again, something that I really, really like. If it's not a 5 star, it's a 4-star kind of situation. I really need to, and I really want to get into this because Logan is a huge fan as well, so it's lots to talk about. He read the entire series, I think 3 times. He's on the Patreon. He's read the most recent book because the author, which I think is fantastic, they put out the entire new book there, and there's so many fans and no one leaked it as far as I know, which honestly is like an extreme fandom achievement, I feel, to have that level of trust and then follow through with it. Anyway, I'm just very impressed with that. So I have been reading this like very slowly, just kind of my reading in general has just been a whole journey and a half. So, but I do have this, and I think I'm only like 30% through physically, and I'm really enjoying it physically as well. So it could be the case for this. That is Alchemy, and I'm fairly certain it's gonna be this. My next class is Art of Illusion, which is unusual formatting, and for this I have the Killer Question, which I have read another book by this author. Is the Mysterious Case of the Alpernon Angels, I want to say. Really enjoyed it. I am a huge fan of mixed media formatting when you know, it's in chats, it's in letters, it's in texts, communication rather than the usual formatting. Historically has barely ever led me astray. I just really enjoy that type of formatting. Whilst the other book focused on a very weird cold case of a cult, this one, a pub quiz situation. The landlords of said pub that host the quiz night have gone missing, and I think there's some mysterious winnings of the pub quiz itself that bring someone to investigate what's going on. I know very little about it other than that, and I want to say that the synopsis is rightfully so very, very vague. But that is the beauty of these type of books. I feel like the less you know sometimes the better, and I'm very excited. I think another aspect of this type of formatting that I really enjoy is that you really feel a little bit more like Charlie by the board with a red string. I don't know, I feel more there for the ride when we're going through all of these correspondences, because I feel like less stuff is kind of spelled out for you. One thing I really enjoyed about the Angel book by the author was that at a certain point, and I think it was like 60-70%, that story could have gone anyway. It could have gone, I could have predicted so many different endings, and I didn't immediately know where we're going. And that is just not, that's rare, you know? So I'm very excited for this, see how that goes. Let me know if you've read this or any of the other books that are on my TBR, because I always love to hear what other people thought. And then I also have another question for you guys later. Which is a little bit unrelated, but I would really appreciate your help on that. The other one that I have on my Listify was for some reason not on the vibe sequence for this, because as I said, I'm just really planning for like multiple plans, is Penance. I do not have this, but it comes recommended. And again, the synopsis is fairly vague. I believe this is about a murder of a teen who I want to say was burned. And again, it is told in correspondences. So it's like a small town setting and a group of teenagers, and it's like a whodunit. I don't know anything else. Again, the synopsis barely exists for this, I feel, and I understand why as well, because you don't want to say too much on it. Astronomy now actually was very tricky. I have some long series, and some of them are like series that I haven't started, and I don't really want to start a new one yet. I have a lot of completed books that I've read because it's also my speculative sci-fi shelf-ish. I had a couple of Terry Pratchett books, but I don't currently really feel like I want to read Terry Pratchett. I almost went for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and would be another reread, which would be like, I do want to tackle that at some point, but I'm currently not in the mood, I feel. Maybe I'll change my mind, who knows, but that's an option if I want to. But as I said, this is largely a shelf of speculative books, so thankfully I did have one that I gotten fairly recently, I think in the last couple of, like this year, and it's called There Is No Antimemetics Division. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read the synopsis to you because I feel like trying to explain this would take longer. An antimeme is an entity with self-censoring properties. Some are benign, but others less so. These entities can feed on your most cherished memories, the things that make you you, and you'll never even know anything changed. And they aren't just feeding on us, they're invading. But how do you contain something you can't record or remember? How do you fight against an enemy with effortless, perfect camouflage when you can never even know that you're at war? Welcome to the Antimemetics Division. No, this is not your first day. So it seems very fucky-wucky. It seems like we're playing with memory and quite like obscure concepts. This could be an absolute new favorite, or we may have writing style that I may just not quite stomach. You know that the speculative sci-fi as a genre, or speculative fiction in general, is my favorite genre. It's an occupational hazard as a fan of the genre, that you will eventually find something so obscure and so pretentious that it will simply not be enjoyable. Because you can go too obscure. I, unfortunately, for someone who loves the genre, have a very low threshold of pretentious writing. So that is unfortunate, but we will see. So I only really have one option for this, so that one better pan out, but if not, there's a DNF scroll and we will be using that if needed. Okay, Conjuration. This is, the prompt was the first book you find enticing on social media. So the first one that I have, we're gonna count Patreon and Discord as social media because we can and we should. Our April book club read on Patreon, and it's Bat Eater. That, and also it did not fit anywhere else, so we're gonna go with it because it needs to be somewhere, and that is a-okay. I'm really excited to read this actually. It follows Cora Zheng, who is a crime scene cleaner, and one day she sees her sister jump in front of a train. And then hears a whisper from the murderer saying Bat Eater. Future crime scenes, she starts seeing things like bat carcasses and increasing amount of victims being East Asian. I have heard that this is quite gory. From those who have already read it, because there's almost always a small portion of people who have already read it before, they were happy to reread it or really excited for other people to read so they can discuss with us, which is always a huge encouraging sign, I feel. So very excited for this one. However, I do have a plan B if I manage to like shuffle things around or if I just read too quickly, and that is Heavenly Bodies. I spent a large portion of this morning going through other people's TBRs for Magical Readathon, which honestly has been such an uplifting experience and so fun to do. This one in particular I have yoinked from a creator called Princess Does. Now I need everyone to go onto her YouTube page because the energy is genuinely unmatched. Both myself and Logan, we were just grinning. That TBR video honestly just uplifted my mood immediately. So I'm just putting it out there. Do yourself a favor and check this creator out. She is doing the final boss, the Arch Librarian Higher Calling, and the Heavenly Bodies came up there. I don't have to, thankfully, read the entire series, but I do have Heavenly Bodies and I have been wanting to read that as well. So this could be a good time. However, it is a plan B because this I actually do have to read, and this I just wanna. I want to read that as well, so it's like 2 against 1. This is a fantasy story and it is a very celestial. There's Kingdom of Light and Kingdom of Shadows, I think. There's prophecies. I like the first sentence that says, you know, the most dangerous kind of villain, a woman with nothing to lose. Okay, next one is spells and incantations. This is the one that I have options, and genuinely it will be whatever mood I'm in that day that I'm starting this. So first I went on to the New York Times, which is, you know, the most kind of like famous over here for their bookseller lists. And I believe from that list we have once again Dungeon Crawler Crawl. So again, if I need to like double up, another thriller would be The Housemaid. I've never read anything by this author. This is extremely popular thriller author. I've never read anything, so it would be nice to try, especially because there's like a movie for it as well. Books in general, I think, is very much like a hit or miss from what I understand, but The Housemaid does have quite a lot of hype, so it could be an interesting one to try. But do let me know what you thought. If you read it, do you think I would like it? Because I'm very up for it. I like trying some very famous authors that I haven't tried anything of. That is actually such a massive list that it could be a series in itself. But then another one that I then thought, you know what, I'm gonna look around. So I went to Waterstones, which is one of the bigger kind of like chain booksellers in the UK. It's basically the Barnes & Nobles of the UK. The bestseller list, I sorted it by fantasy, and then I scrolled, and my rule for myself was, because I think they had like 3 pages, and I was like, I'm only gonna do the first page because I feel like it's a little bit cheeky. There's like a lot of options. This is actually our March book club for the Patreon, and thankfully it's not until this weekend, so I still have time to read it, but it would be great to actually put it into the readathon, seeing that it's already the 1st of April. So that is the Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter. I would technically need to use another scroll for this. It would be the scroll of the continuation. But does 20 pages even matter? Because I think that is how far I am. I can just get the scroll and then continue on. And this is a cozy fantasy about a woman who runs a cat shelter. Unfortunately, after the mages battle near their previous location, her shop is damaged and she needs to find a new place, but she is really struggling financially and cannot really find anywhere that they would let her to bring that many cats in. Relatable, actually. There's going to be like an encounter with obviously like the main mage and perhaps the one that caused, I don't know, but anyway, there's gonna be romance and there's cats. So okay, next what I need is lore, which has utopia or a dystopia book, and for this, guess what? In a sentence, this is a story about a guy who survives aliens arriving at Earth and kind of squishing everything underground. The underground begins a dungeon, and the dungeon is actually a reality TV show for said aliens, and you have to survive. Only one person will get to live, and we follow him and his ex's cat. So that's plan B, as it is for most categories. But plan A is Scarlet, which is the second book in the Winter Chronicles? I very sadly dropped this, so it was like really battered on this side, but it's okay. The first one is Cinder, and this is basically a cyberpunk sci-fi early YA retelling. So the first one was of Cinderella and Scarlet is of the Red Riding Hood. I actually had such a great time with the first one. I've missed out on these books when they were going around in the early days of YouTube, and I wasn't sure if I'm gonna enjoy it, but I do love sci-fi and I actually did really enjoy it. It does obviously follow the tropes of the original fairy tales, and I normally really struggle with retelling, but I actually think it is because a lot of the times the writing style quite leans into the lyricism, which makes sense because fairy tales are quite exaggerative and very descriptive and very lyrical and colorful, and that is just not my preferred writing style for a reader. But I had a great time with the first one. I don't know if it's the sci-fi element, the cyber legs, or I don't know. Something about it really spoke to me. Maybe I'll rewatch my shelf health video because that was part of it. So if you want my original thoughts as well, I will leave those linked down below as well. But that is plan A. It's not the shortest book, but it's also not awful. It's still it's like 450 pages, and it's YA, so it should be alright. Intrigued. Let me know if you have read this one and if it's just as good or even better than the first one, because I feel like that will help as well. I also had to cage a wild bird in this if I wanted to, but I'm gonna maybe wait for other people's opinions on that first. And the last one that is required for my career, Psionics and Divination, with the word time in the title. I don't actually have this one at all, but I do want to read it, and it's first time caller. I've heard just great things about it, and I don't know anything about it. So very helpful of me. And it's a contemporary romance, which I don't have any so far in this TBR, which is fine. It's not my primary category that I read within, but could be nice. So that one's for that, because I also feel like I have a lot of sci-fi, so I didn't want to go too sci-fi in this category. But I think this is a good plan. The only other book that I have that I, for some reason, scheduled for myself to the point where Logan actually put it into his own TBR so we can read it together. Only to realize afterwards that I actually don't need it for my required callings. It's like an extra credit if I wanted to. It's for animal studies for the wolf. And that is primarily because I have started this book in like October and then it just got put aside. And it's my first proper dip, I feel, in romantasy. And I already said that it was an unfortunate choice. Not because the book is bad, but because I really suffer from just not being able to stomach the entire like wolf alpha thing seriously. It's challenging for me. So for me to pick this as the first one, it's interesting, but I would say it would be a fun experience to read this alongside with Logan. Not only because it's also like very Scottish inspired in places, so it would be very interesting to see what he thinks, but it's the Wolf King. And I do want to continue with it, and I was like 40% in, so I would use a scroll for it if I did want to go for that extra credit. I just don't need it for my required classes anymore. I just don't know how to break it to Logan. But it's okay, maybe I'll find him in like another book, because I know he's not gonna want to read this without me. When we read ACOTAR back in the day, he enjoyed it a lot, so I don't know. Could surprise us both. But so let me actually try and put together my tentative TBR that's like the primary options, other than I don't have first time caller. So these are the ones that if everything goes well, this is what we're reading. So We Are Legion, The Killer Question, There Is No Anti-Mimetics Division, Bat Eater, probably Agnes or The Housemaid, but probably Agnes, because I do need to read it, so might as well, because I didn't realize that March is over, so that's on me. Scarlet and Imagine First Time Caller here. So those are the books plus the first time caller. So I don't know. How do we feel? Normally I would be like, great, fantastic. And I do think, great, fantastic. However, I just can't stress it enough how much of a struggle reading has been recently, because life. Manifesting, hoping. The other question that I wanted to ask you guys is actually about crocheting. So if you crochet, and I know a lot of you do, I have abandoned crocheting for so long now, and I feel like I need to rekindle that, especially if I want to listen to audiobooks. I don't want to do a blanket. I can, but I don't wanna. I don't want to do amigurumis because that requires too much, like I can't audiobook next to it. So I need a crochet project that I can audiobook alongside. So primarily not too boring, so it's not like a blanket, but also repetitive enough that you don't have to like count too much. Hit me if you have anything that you found fun to work on, fun to do. I know I'm not really helping, but I don't really also want to do clothing because I haven't done any before, and I feel like I would need like way more concentration for that. I have too many scarves as it is. I mean, I can always do scarves, but that's just a mini blanket. Do you see where I'm going with this? I don't know. But maybe I'm just not thinking about something, let me know. Or, if all else fails and nothing fits my category, just let me know what you're crocheting. Maybe we'll just like re-spark some sort of thing. I could just make like amigurumis, but just make the same one. Because I am very tempted by Stardew Valley chickens. I could just surround myself with like many Stardew Valley chickens. I have a lot of chenille yarn that I really need to use up because it's just sitting there collecting dust and taking shelf space. So maybe that's the plan. But anyway, I'm gonna go wrap up. I'm going to hopefully speed edit this and upload it for you guys today, as well as do a little starter live stream for you because it's the 1st of April and I'm scrambling to do it all. Great start, but thank you so much. I'm so excited for our semester to come. I'm gonna skedoodle. Thanks so much. I will see you very soon. Bye.